LinkedIn is Professor Titular de University de VIGO, but I know Fernando for a long time. He's a very keen small sat operator, developer, Earth Station, ground station system. Go ahead, Mike is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. So I'm going to present what happens to us when we were operating our second satellite using the UHF radio amateur band, and it was absolutely unexpected, and it was, I think, that is very important from the point of view of lesson learned to be included in our next satellite. First of all, I'm going to introduce a little bit what is, I say HUMSAT because it comes from humanitarian satellites, and I need the sound. Oh. Sorry. So it's not a problem. So basically, the HUMSAT-D satellite, the HUMSAT constellation, is a United Nations program carried out under the Basic Space Technology Initiative, and it was approved in 2009 in the first symposium in Graz. So the idea is to develop a constellation for collecting data from very, very low power transmitter located on the ground, typically 27 dBm, transmitting a UF band. And it's like a short SMs transmitted worldwide and collected this data, and using a data storage idea, then you retransmit the information, the code on board to the ground station. So it was, this is the first HUMSAT-D integration. It was successfully launched in November 2013, and the idea is to include new satellites in the constellation. So then I can skip a little bit. So this is the mission statement. So we have here the, okay, where is the pointer? It's here? Oh, no. Sorry.
Pointer is.
Okay, sorry.
Just, but you have to turn on. Yes.
Okay. So then, what I was including before, okay, you have a number of in situ measurement sensors transmitting, and when the satellite is passing, you are collecting the data, you are decoding, modulating, you are stored on the satellite, and when the satellite is passing over the ground station, you retrieve the data, and you, through internet, you make this available to the final user. So the project has been supported by United Nations and by the European Space Agency through the Education Office. So the HUMSAT-D is the first in-orbit demonstrator of the constellation, and it was launched in 2013 through a Dnieper rocket. And this is basic is 1 unit satellite, and we have here the platform that is quite standard, and also we have the payload. This is a communication payload, and we have incorporated through parallel transceiver in order to split the receiver band into 4 bands, and then to compensate on board the frequency Doppler shift. So then each transceiver can be configured through commands from the ground station. Okay, so then this is the flight unit, and you can see here the 4 radio receiver transceiver. Okay, so we were very lucky. During the first orbit, we could contact and we could decode and we could command the satellite. It was extremely good. And then this is our, first green operation control. It was very, very good. So, but we estimated 2 typical phases. The first is the in-orbit test after the commission phase of the platform, and then the complete operation. But since the beginning, we found unexpected interference, because our link budget was much more enough for transmitting with 27 dBm and to reach the satellite, we didn't incorporate any correction algorithm in UHF for the payload. because we have like 10 dB margin when we were transmitting with a minimum elevation of 15, 20 dB, degrees, that it was more than enough for the demonstration. But it was unexpected interference. We have a number of sensors located in Brazil, and it was working very, very well in Brazil, but in VIGO it was not possible to transmit from the same sensors to the satellite. So then we are working in UHF. This is a secondary service, and then this is unexpected interference, but could be legal. And then you have to take into account that from the point of view of the design, if you're working in a radio, in a band where you are not the primary service, these things may happen. And you have to incorporate into the design phase, not only in the operation phase. So then we didn't know at this time about these problems, and then we test additional noise measurements at different points over all the Earth. We have implemented a number of measurements about the receive power. We have elaborated different tests with different configuration. So at the beginning, we began to think it was an internal source or it was an external source, the interference. So obviously, it was too strong to think that it was from an internal source. It was more likely to be an external source. But we were analyzing all the possibilities in order to say, okay, this is likely an external interference. So then, what is the different test campaigns? So different latitudes and frequencies, because we were able to retune through commands the radio, and then we selected a number of different latitudes to carry out the measurements campaign. We choose different locations and frequency of the different latitudes, and we were evaluating how the interference was being attenuated when the satellite went from the north to the south over the orbit. It was very, very amazing. And nowadays the interference continued. So methodology, it was quite simple. Instead to configure the payload to receive the data from the sensor, we configure to measure the power level. Then we set up all the transceivers operating in parallel, sometimes overlapping the same 6 kilohertz band. Then the test, it was performed during a specific time and frequency, and we returned 2 results, values per transceiver, the maximum power received during the test, and the frequency stability of the signal received. This is extremely important because this is the way that we could think that it was an interference instead, interference instead noise. So this is in the zone 1 that I'm going to present, where this is a lot of interference, okay, minus 90 dB, and the floor, you can see, is approximately minus 120 dBm. So it's 30 dB above the noise floor. And it was very, very, unexpected from our point of view. But I say that it could be absolutely legal, and you have to take into account when you design the satellite. And in the zone 3 and 4, it was the same, minus 120. So this, sorry, I think that I skipped one. Because different. Okay, these are the areas. So it was zone 1. It was between approximately 60 north to a little bit above the equator. This is zone 2. This is zone 3, and this is in zone 4. Okay. So then we found the problem in zone 1. So in the next slide, we can say the stability. The higher, or you have here 0 means that if you are receiving a stabilized frequency, when you are tracking, the error tracking is almost 0. and means here we were receiving a lot of interference from interference source. And you see here that we have almost a random deviation, and means that is noise, is white noise. So it was absolutely clear that in this area we found interference. So next point was to continue with the same measurements over different locations. And we have different points. And we could find, and not only in the 437, because we have also retuned in order to receive in the IS band in 430, and we receive in location in point number 1 and point number 4, that it was, in the north, the same behavior, getting a lot of interference. Not only in this, it was quite. So you have to consider that we, in this configuration, the payload is collecting information, and we transmit the highest value from the power point of view received. So it means that this is the maximum power received, okay? So, and typically, the duration of these measurements was 5 minutes per point. So then, the frequency stability was almost the same, you can see here, and it was very, very clear. So, in order to evaluate where the interference disappear, what we perform is the following test, and then we could see that it was approximately at the end of someone where we could find that the interference disappeared. And it was absolutely compatible with the performance that we measured in Brazil, that it was absolutely perfect. So then, from our point of view, what we have done is to evolve our payload, incorporating a correction algorithm that we are going to use when we are going to transmit data from the North Hemisphere, and we are going to change the configuration of the payload in the South Hemisphere in order to improve the performance of the system. But you have to adapt the design, including this information that is absolutely very important. So, just for, and it was pulse or continue. So we modify the configuration of the payload, and we can see different, it's like a sinusoidal, and the idea is we have make these measurements in 24 points, 2 seconds per point, and about 24 seconds between different points. It means in zone 3, and it was in an area that it was expected an interference. And this is the power received, and this is, okay, you see this frequency stability. So it means here you have interference, and here you don't have interference. It means in the same area, sampling at different time, you are receiving interference and not interference. It means that is not a continuous interference and could be compatible with the primary use of this frequency. So, conclusions. So a powerful interference was detected in this area, in North area. The interference is generated by a pulse source, and we have a new measurements campaign must be planned with different satellites. And what we have found is another paper that was presented by Professor Silin in the last AAC conference. That also with the professor, with Otto, it was absolutely coincidence all the results of the different missions. So please, if you are going to use the UHF band for telecommanding for your satellite, you should include a correction algorithm. Otherwise, you are going not to operate your satellite. This is extremely important, okay? So this is very important, and this project has been financed by the Spanish Ministry. And any kind of doubts, you can send us an email, and I will be very happy to respond. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I try to be fast because I would like to really give you coffee break, and Mr. Ansi is coming after coffee break, and we have to really be in a good shape.